Hi all, I have a very interesting game from a number of perspectives. This game, Leela ID 10-555 against Fire 7.1. So Leela's playing with fire in this one. Okay, so the opening in this game, the first moves given, it seems to be Leela is forced to play the dreaded London system. Will it be a killer London system in this game? This is a modern trendy move order which is discussed on another video on this channel, which I'll give in the pinned comment. So it's not committing the knight, which can sometimes interrupt this diagonal. So it's a modern treatment of the London system with 2 bishop f4. So we see bishop g4 now, so stopping white from playing e3. Cheeky. c3, the dreaded London system triangle, is still being constructed. Now we have knight f6, queen b3, unpinning the pawn, hitting b7, trying to say bishop g4 has neglected b7. We have queen c8, knight d2, e6, knight gf3, now h6, which gives h7 potentially as a square for this bishop. e3, bishop e7, knight e5, the bishop wants to be maintained, bishop f5, annoying diagonal. Bishop e2, a5, a4. The bishop uses that h7 square. So now Leela plays a very aggressive move, g4. We have knight fd7, trying to hit back on the dark squares. So e5 challenged. Leela goes forward again with h4, another pawn push. Push those pawns. Knight takes, bishop takes. Black castles. Now it might be tempting to try and smash black with g5. This is not as effective as you might want here. Leela didn't play this actually, so it seems to run into f6 basically. This position is not totally ideal, although white might have a small edge. Black's pieces are pretty well activated here. The king's safe enough for a moment, the black king. So in fact, Leela drops back the bishop to sort of play g5 with more effect as one perk. We have bishop d6 though, still being annoying on dark squares. If f6 here, by the way, is preventative, that does weaken the diagonal. Instead of the g5 plan here, a change of tact might be better with e4, trying to exploit this diagonal. White's doing well there. So, okay, bishop d6. We have now bishop takes d6 in this position, c takes. So this is activating the queen quite annoyingly, and the c file looks dangerous if white castles queenside. So can Leela actually have her cake and eat it, i.e. open up lines against the king without getting smashed herself? g5 is played. Now black ignores this with knight c6, doesn't react here to open up this rook. So interesting stuff going on now. We have now, just to show you the dangers of HG, just in case you're not convinced, say queen d8. Rook h2 is an interesting move, preparing to double rooks. White can castle queenside, double the rooks, and this is very bad for black indeed. If the bishop moves, then it's checkmate. If g6, just take the bishop. So this is a disaster scenario, activating the rook, so not to be underestimated. So knight c6. Now here, it's interesting. If Leela castles queenside, there is a ready-made c-file. There's things like knight b4. And this is a kind of sliding block puzzles scenario where you want to be able to transfer pieces onto the attack. For example, this rook wants to get involved in the attack on the king side. Maybe this knight wants to get involved as well. But things are in a way, like the king. And castling queenside is really not ideal here because of things like knight b4. And then there's bishop c2, for example. We see actually a very, very interesting move. Knight f1. This is the start of a very interesting sliding block puzzle solution. The d2 square is now vacated, but not only that, it's with advantage because the knight is also transferring usefully to the attack in any case. Queen d3, and now Knight g3, not concerned if black wants to open up the rook, that's fine, that's in white's favour. Knight g3, the knight's in a nice attacking place now. Rook c8, really discouraging white from castling queenside here. So what is the solution? White to play in this position. What would you play if you want some more attack? You know, you want this rook involved. White to play, if I give you 5 seconds. Okay, king d2. Yes, this solves the problem. First it was d2 vacated for the king by the knight move. Now the king uses that to just get the rook over here. If white castled knight b4 as an example, this position, bishop c2, black has an advantage. What does white actually do here? This one, maybe e5 here. It's just really awkward, this glare of the bishop, the knight. It's just really awkward. If white has to play this, king d2 here, this might be the way actually to recover the position, funny enough. So why not just move it there in the first place? So that would be threatening the knight in some variations. This could end up being a very interesting position with white still having the edge in any case, actually. But king d2 straight off the bat is more optimal. Knight e7 is played, and the rook gets into its attacking place. Look at these pieces, all very happy bunnies. What about this one? Is the queen a happy bunny here? How can it transfer? Is this yet another sliding block puzzle problem? The bishop's in the way on this diagonal. We have king h8, rook h2, bishop g6, and here a key move you might think is mysterious. But yeah, think of sliding block puzzles. The queen really wants to get involved here. And the bishop b5 is played, which does mean that the diagonal is now open to the queen to bounce back via d1. Very, very nice stuff in this game. If white tries to play without the queen, there isn't so much oomph to the attack. We can play Nimzovich knight to h1 style to reroute, but white still is doing okay, but it would be nice to get the queen involved instead of being locked out. So bishop b5 for the moment. Let the heavy guns come in. Queen d1. The top scorer is coming in. The queen. Queen e7, f4. And the queen's also got f3. So if any f5 now, which the knight helps, then d5 is attacked and the queen can use pressure on d5. So knight a7. And now this bishop, Leela decides, is expendable. Just f5 for a moment. Or rather, hitting g6 anyway. So here, if black played e takes, which weakens d5. If bishop takes, this kind of continuation, the bishop pops back with a vengeance and the knight's misplaced. Black really doesn't want to do this. Doubled rooks on the g file. Queen protects e3, hits the pressure points, f5 and d5. Big advantage to white crashing through there on the light squares. So e takes, trying to hold the fort. Yeah, this is just really dangerous. So here, the bishop does drop back. We have f4. That's what it seems to be a nasty forcing move of the king being exploited here. If rook c8 instead, then queen f3 defends e3. This position, in fact, king takes d3 is possible here in this variation. And the king can just go back safely if needed. And the queen is a great attacking piece. This is just an example. Bang. That's the sort of danger of the G file here. You know, for example, here, it's the classic checkmate pattern. So there are lurking dangers here on rook ce8 with queen f3. So we have this immediate f4. E takes, bishop takes d3. But now the awkward looking king takes d3. Isn't this king, shouldn't it be at home somewhere? It shouldn't be out and about here. But how does black exploit that? The knight's misplaced. Nothing's backing up the queen at the moment. And in any case, queen e3 has king c2. So we have b5. And now, not concerned about that, f5. rook fe8, and not even concerned about queen e3 here, just carrying on with f6. G takes is played. On queen e3, so what? King just drops back, say b4. There does seem to be a lot of pressure on c3, but f takes is quick, because if king takes, then there's knight f5 check, forking king and queen. And if here, king g8, rook e2, the queen's expelled. If queen f3, then rook takes is winning the queen there after. So queen f4 takes. This is just too dangerous for black, this kind of scenario. Where after h7, it's the black king getting it before the white king after g8. So if king takes, there's things like knight e4 winning the queen, knight e4 check. And if takes with the rook, then check, and we have the same scenario. This is just too dangerous. Black would have to give up the queen. Otherwise, there's big trouble in this line. Check, just taking the rook. Check, and it's the black king is more in trouble than the white king. So we have after f6 g takes, rook e2, queen f8, knight f5, the killer knight on f5, which many grandmasters really like, including Kasparov, his favourite square for a knight. So what's the impact here? Well, fg is played, hg. This looks as though the house is on fire for fire, basically. Rook takes e2. Fire has been playing with too much fire here. Queen takes e2. Queen e8. Queen f3. Avoiding the exchange of queens to build up. You know, if white has one or two extra moves, that's the end of black's king. So fire desperately gets rid of the queens with queen e4. But now it turns out the king's really quite aggressive and useful for this endgame scenario. We have rook d8 being played here to hold d6 in some lines. So if takes, knight takes d6, and if here g takes, this is just very nice for white, as you might expect. So rook d8, a takes, knight takes, g takes, d5 check, and the king just goes forward, and it helps create a kind of zugzwang position. There's immense pressure here, not just on d5, but to support knight d6 if the knight moves. So almost black's in zugzwang. Black uses a move, pawn move, but now rook g7, rook d7, and now rook g3, and you might think, well, hold on, isn't there a repetition? Now, in the case of rook d8, rook d7, you might think, isn't that just going to be an identical position? Because the rook can't move off d5, the knight can't move out knight d6, but white just wastes a move, actually, to get a zugzwang here. Black played knight a7, which seems it's just letting white in with knight d6. But what does black actually do to hold the fort in the face of zugzwang? If rook d8, white wastes a move with rook g4 to get this position. Now with rook g7, zugzwang. Black's cracking here. There's going to be things like knight d6, knight f7. You know, the knight doesn't really want to just take on c3. So if knight c7, knight h4 for knight g6 check is threatened for that pin. If check, king d6, this is just nasty. This position gets really nasty after rook takes f7. So it's a zugzwang position. We have knight a7. The knight goes into d6, now hitting d5 as well, potentially. Well, yeah, d5 is on. Check, that's actually taken. Going into a self pin. It's harmless here, though. The knight has to move. Knight a5. We have rook f3 hitting f7. Knight b7. The rook actually supports d6. This position here is now just very, very favourable to white. This is just a winning rook and pawn ending, in fact. It's a matter of technique. And Leela, I believe, even without table base, is able to play this rook and pawn ending. Doesn't need a table base necessarily, but they have put it on later versions. d7. Yeah, it's just winning enough. It's winning so easily. This d pawn is absolutely decisive. The two connected pass pawns queening. And Leela actually does under promote a knight cheekily. The rook's just given up. And it carries on like this to the death. So, a killer London system demonstrating extreme sliding block puzzles to get the pieces all in attacking beautiful squares. The king really ready and as a fighting piece for the endgame, causing a zugzwang after king e5. Massive zugzwang position. Wonderful stuff. This is aesthetically pleasing in my view. This is what chess is all about. I hope you enjoyed it as much as me. Comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks so much.